Hello, and I'm back again. It's Uncle Badger, and today, after quite a bit of a while, I'm going to do another mystical book archive video. Almost forgot the name of the series. It's been a while, several months, probably even 7 or 8 months since I've done one. But I've managed to get a number of extra books, and well, I'm going to need to build some bookshelves to hold them all. I've got a playlist of the previous videos if you'd care to have a look for other Uncle Badger's mystical book archives. But yes, I'm going to get straight into the books. I think the first book I'm going to show, I think it's one that I've shown before, but it's to put it in context of a couple of the other books. It's Prime Chaos by Phil Hine. I think I've shown you this one before. I'm going to put this down over here because the next one, and I've got that the wrong way around. This one I've shown before, Condensed Chaos, and this is the new one, Prime Chaos. Both of them sort of, part of the confusion is that both of them are sort of companion pieces to each other. Both are, Prime Chaos is the new one. Condensed Chaos is the old one. I'll put that one down before I mix it up again. Whoops. Well, anyway, both of these are meant to be a couple of the leading books in teaching yourself Chaos Magic. I've seen a lot of people a lot of people ask, how do you start Chaos Magic? And a couple of the first books that, some of the main books that are suggested are Prime and Chaos and Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine. Yeah, Phil Hine, not Hines. He doesn't make beans. But he apparently got a bit bored of Chaos Magic in the mid-90s, and he's not really produced much to do with Chaos Magic since. I know he'd done stuff to do with Tantric Yoga more recently. But and then it goes on to something of his that is actually a bit more specific, the Pseudonomicon. This is another Chaos Magic book, and as you might be able to guess, it's connected with the work of H.P. Lovecraft. This one's quite a thin book. I think most of these you can only get second hand. I think they are, even the cheapest second hand ones copies are roughly about the same price as a retail. The retail price, so we're talking at least £8, probably up to £20. So that's in dollars, US dollars, that's probably about $10 to $28 per book. This one's a bit cheaper, but this one's named for the sake of the Necronomicon. As you can probably guess, I'm quite interested in Chaos Magic. I've not properly read all of these. I've seen several videos, and I'm wanting to do a proper, full-blown study of it. There are relevant groups online on Facebook and videos about it all. But with this, it looks into sort of using Lovecraftian entities in magic. And using them in connection with sort of like primal forces, things that are and always have been and always will be for aeons in which even death may die. Paraphrase, that's a quote of his. Whatever a person might think of Lovecraft himself, the Cthulhu mythos I find absolutely fascinating, and people have looked into it since the beginning of Chaos Magick in the late 70s. I've read Pseudonomicon. I've read the intro to that, and Phil Hine got into it. He was contemplating stuff. He was with a friend, and they were channeling Gaia, the Earth spirit, and he sort of became overwhelmed by the concept of all the primal forces that keep the Earth going. That would have been a big ball of fire and magma for millions of years before cooling down. It would have been an ice age and stuff. But yeah, that's Next two books are related, where Condensed Chaos and Prime Chaos by Phil Hine seem to be beginner books for the beginner books. These two are the books that you move on to after that. Libernal and Psychonaut by Peter Carroll and Liber Chaos. These again are recommended as sort of beginner books, but I think these are the sort of next stage after Condensed Chaos and Prime Chaos by Phil Hine. These go into sort of rituals and practices, meditational guides, where Condensed and Prime Chaos go into generalisations and principles behind Chaos Magick. These go into practical details. This one always seems to be the more important of these two. But yeah, Libernal and Psychonaut first and stuff. So if anyone is planning on getting into Chaos Magick, Prime Chaos, Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine, then this afterwards. But yeah, even says on the back, I'm just reading it, practical instructions lead the reader through new concepts. Psychonaut explores the shamanistic relationships with the community and teaches readers how to perform magic in a group. That's this. Comes in a double volume. Yeah, this is about £10 to £15, so between $15 and $25 US dollars. And this one, try not to block my face so you can, I know I almost forgot with the glossy stuff, the light dances off the cover, so try and hold it up like that. Yeah, this is saying about complete advanced magical training for the individual or for groups. Details of the author's magical order. And this seems to move on from Libernal and Psychonaut. Yeah, he had Peter Carroll. He had Magic Order, Initiates of Thanatos. Sorry, trying to remember off the top of my head. Initiates of Thanatos, and I think there was a bit of a split. In about 1980, there was a bit. Peter Carroll is sort of identified as one of the very few people who started Chaos Magick in the late 70s, about 1977, to pulling on sort of chaos theory, string theory, and also some popular culture, some stuff that was in Lovecraft, Michael Moorcock, and some stuff that would actually go into Warhammer as well. And that's sort of the background to that game is something I'm quite interested, because that started up about 1977 as well, and so there's a lot of background to that. But yeah, apparently there was heated discussions about the way the organisation Initiates of Thanatos should be conducted, and there was Frater UD who basically split from the group and founded his own European version of Chaos practitioners. In several of these books, you might, if you were to read them, you would probably see references to the initiates of Thanatos. But we'll get on to a couple of other bits. There we go. Another favourite person of mine, Robert Anton Wilson, with Quantum Psychology. He wrote the Illuminatus trilogy with Robert O'Shea, and don't forget Robert O'Shea, but Illuminatus, it's Robert Anton Wilson went on to help found the Discordian Society, where Chaos Magick is a system of magic. The Discordian Society is more a chaotic religion, and if you go on their website, you can print out a little business card thing that about the size of a credit card, a membership card that gives you permission to call yourself a pope of Discordianism. Everyone is allowed to call themselves that if they are interested in Discordianism. Which is fun. I think Robert Anton Wilson and the two other guys that started up the Discordian Society, all three of them had noticeably different but equally valid definitions of what they wanted from Discordianism. All three of them wanted different things and defined it differently. And it's like, and they were going a bit arguing for a bit, and then thought, hold on, each one of us is valid in this. Therefore we are all. And to take it a bit further, it's like anyone who, anyone can be a pope of Discordianism depending on how they interpret it. But I'm sort of blathering a little bit. I've read a bit of this, and once I've finished this, I'll perhaps do a book through of this. When I've finished reading it, it's quite interesting. There's stuff about a lot about coming to terms with perception. There's a lot of stuff to do with perception and things like that, and sort of nothing being certain. You cannot go about saying that things are certain. In science, in quantum theory and string theory and stuff like that, things are not certain. So, and these are the foundations of reality, and it's like, so therefore reality is not a certainty. So you cannot sort of go about saying something is something. Something is definitely something. This group of things or people or whatever are certainly something. So and it sort of talks about on the back quantum mechanics, relativity, non-Euclidean geometries, Aristotelian logic, and general semantics. That's the wordplay. I quite like a bit of wordplay and stuff in it. I was joking around. I quite like jokes and stuff. It's like the way it diverts. Lead someone to believe one thing and then you jump to a different meaning. I quite like that. Semantics and stuff. I quite like playing with semantics and wordplay and stuff. And it's talks about patterns and linguistic conventions. The 8 circuits of the brain model and the labyrinth of quantum mechanics. I was quite impressed by what I've read of that. There are lots of interviews with Robert Anton Wilson on YouTube. A friend recently bothered to take my suggestion and actually watch some of the stuff, and he has a very approachable way of describing things. My friend compared him to George Carlin, But where I think George Carlin is a comedian who touches on philosophy and morals. George Carlin's a comedian that touches on philosophy and morals. Robert Anton Wilson talks about philosophy and morals in a comedic way. And you listen to what he says, and he doesn't he talks about heavy subjects, but nothing is certainly this. Something is something. Stuff like doesn't specifically sort of example. The Earth orbits the sun as a certainty. It's talking about perceptions and experiences and stuff. But on to the next book. The Prince of Principia Discordia. And this is, I think this can be sort of picked up as like a free PDF and stuff. Doodles I say doodles, pictures. Yeah, this is sort of, this can be picked up for free as a PDF and things, or a couple of dollars, couple of pounds off Amazon or whatever. But it's basically the nearest thing to a Bible that Discordianism has, and it says on the back, Jonesborough House of Eris Science and Fnord Committee. Fnords were in Illuminatus trilogy. They present the affordable and house official magnum opiate of Malacalypse the Younger, Principia Discordia, or How I Found Goddess and What I Did to Her When I Found Her, wherein is explained absolutely everything worth knowing about absolutely anything, and nothing basic has been changed, just no fancy introductions by any famous people or space filler like that. Just like the bare bones basic book. Yeah. Just had a bit of a light pass on the back of this. In front of my altar, I don't know if I got a little visitation. It's yeah. Well, anyway, if you're interested in Discordianism as a companion to looking into like Chaos Magick, that's sort of the basic thing, and that's a Robert Anton Wilson connected thing. Then we get into a few more books. We have a new book by Morgan Daimler, by Pagan Portals, Living Fairy. This is the new book by Morgan Daimler. I think it's it's her newest book. I think it's a few months old, text copyright 2019. Yeah. I think it was published late last year. I'll be doing a proper book-through, homing in on this book quite soon. It should be up over the next couple of days, maybe later today, tomorrow, I'm not sure, day after that. Over the next few days I'll do a book through on this, but yeah, I'm beginning to like working with the Fae themselves. Quite like working with themselves and stuff, and think of let it slide a little bit, but I need to get back into it a bit. Then we get into the Book of Telesin. Welsh literature. I want to start reading this. I read the Mabinogion, and I'm sure it references Telesin a couple of times in that. I'm going to have to refresh my memory. But yes, this looked very good. This is a companion piece. Telesin was a real bard, and then legends were told about him. It says here he is a 6th century poet, a shapeshifter, a seer, a chronicler of battles fought in ancient Britain. and a fiction whose literary legend culminated in the 13th century Book of Telesin. And so yeah, it's I sort of wanted to do something along the line. Rowena Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, he had something to do with it. He had, translated by Gwyneth Lewis and Rowena Williams. Yeah, it's I'd wanted to, so it's a bit Christianised. But one thing I'd wanted to do was try and read several of the legends from the Mabinogion, and perhaps that part of the problem being is I don't really speak Welsh, and it's packed full of Welsh names that I will probably butcher. Yes, so I'll probably get a lot of comments saying, "You're pronouncing that wrong, how dare you, her." It's so that's a bit of a thing, so I don't really know what to do with that without learning Welsh. But I quite like the idea of learning Welsh. But two more bits. The Druids, and that's by Peter Berris Fidelis. He I've got a book of Celtic legends by him, and that was something else I wanted to read from. Celtic legends and myths by him. And at the time I read them, this is probably about this time 2017, they were quite a big eye-opener, and I think I was going through a bit of an awakening at the time, and that sort of helped in it, so I could feel things flourishing in the mind. And this also has a review on the back by 14 Times. I quite like 14 Times. Brief history of the Druids, rather. Praise for the Druids. I think let's have a look. Yeah, it goes into identifying the Druids through foreign eyes, through the Celtic eyes, female Druids, religion of the Druids, rituals, reviving the Druids, origins of the Druids. Then quite a long section, the wisdom of the Druids, Druidic schools, books, Druids as philosophers, judges, historians, poets and musicians, physicians, seers, astronomers and astrologers, and as magicians. That's what it says on the contents page, just here. There are illustrations. There are pictures as well. I think that's sort of Druidic revival. The problem is, I think part of the thing is, because I got into wanting to study Druidry, there's OBOD, the Order of Bards, Oviates and Druids, OBOD. I'm not too certain. Some of the practices would have changed or been changed since the Druids were originally about, during the Roman period, for instance. So, and I think there's sort of an order of the Druid, and I know one occultist, uncomplimentary, refers to them as Anglican cosplayers, which may or may not be true, but it's still a very, very curious thing, and that's why I've sort of got books of legends. See some of me at my other Mystical Archive videos. You'll see I've got a stack of books about the yay high, probably from top of the video to bottom. Probably got that I'd like to go through and study. I did get another book on the Druids that was in a previous video, and I found out that might not be very reliable. The author sort of recommended eating things like mistletoe berries, which are poisonous, so don't. He wasn't exactly very nice to a few people, and I don't think he particularly liked the idea of women becoming druids, which is unfortunate. There is a lot of magic and spirituality in femininity. Yeah, that's something to be talked about on another separate thing, but women have their own magic and spirituality that's can in some ways even top trumps whatever a man can do. Yeah. But here we go. We have the last book of this evening. We have Telesin, the Last Celtic Shaman. And yeah, that goes with the Book of Telesin that I showed earlier. Was it trying to read backwards? John Matthews with additional with additional material by Caitlin Matthews. Yeah, I got this instead of the book I previously mentioned. I can't remember the name of the other book. It's in one of the previous archive videos. Perhaps it's a good thing that I can't remember its name off the top of my head. It's in a big stack of books and it'll take ages to find. So, yeah, I doubt you'd want to be watching me rummaging through books for half an hour and only hearing me swearing and thunking about and only being able to see my big wobbly bottom. So we'll leave it for another time, perhaps. But yeah, it's this. Telesin, chief bard of Britain, Celtic shaman. Historical figure who lived in Wales during the latter half of the 6th century. That's the 500s. St Augustine turned up in, was it 595, in the British Isles, with the synod of Whitby confirming Britain as a Christian country. Not very long later, 20 or 30 years later, ish. I'd have to look that up. Yeah, in addition, Telesin's verse is a direct precursor to the Arthurian legends, and Telesin himself, shaman and shapeshifter, is said to be a contemporary of Merlin. I know there's one legend of that actually gets attributed to both Telesin and the Welsh version of Merlin. Married Wilt, Merlin the Wild, and about their creation and well, particularly about, I think, Telesin. He was originally Ceridwen's mute idiot apprentice, and who drank a potion from Ceridwen's cauldron that was meant for her child. And then there's this big chase, touching on flying through the air, swimming through the water, going over the land, and also going through a fire, touching on the main elements: fire, earth, air and water. Ceridwen chasing Telesin through several different forms, and then Ceridwen, when Telesin had been turned himself into a little piece of grain and landed in a barn after harvest in a big a pile of grain, Ceridwen came down as a hawk, as a bird of prey, and found the exact grain and ate it. And there sat the grain, the seed of knowledge, inside Ceridwen. And Telesin, as the seed grew and grew and grew, and was reborn again like the phoenix. but that's only part of the legend, and yes, I might try and find a proper copy and tell it properly. There we go. That's all the books I have for now. I wish you all I wish you all good health. Goodbye. Sorry that it's taken so long for me to do another video. I've been looked over by the Wizard Barry, and a gift from one friend, and a gift from another friend who I've not named, that came all the way from America on a long journey. And with that, we'll all say goodbye, and I'll see you shortly for another book through. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.